Hello, real estate agents. Welcome to the Weekly Closer. I'm your host, Jeff Underwood, along with my co-host, Joey Sampaga. You all do know him as the man with the plan, and we are the Real Estate Marketing Maniacs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. His oh, yeah is a little bit better than yours. Come on,
just
get
a
into
little
it.
bit. Just a little bit.
Let me hear you. Come on, Joey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Come on, let's do
go.
this.
Dustin, you want to throw one in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was even better. How about that?
I might just record that and use it.
Right there. No! Okay, my finger slipped. I hit that one. Hit that one there. But so we have a great guest with us today.
Yes, we do.
Dustin Holindrake with
Awesome.
My Home Group and Open House Helpers. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me drive like 100 miles north. No, I'm kidding. I'm in Gilbert. It's not too far, but it was like half hour.
I'm out in Gilbert too. Yeah.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really South Gilbert.
Oh, well, at least I'm in North Gilbert. I'm like downtown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And downtown's awesome now.
I love it down there. I just opened an office down there, actually, right just right north of the Heritage District.
Yeah.
Yep, right there on Gilbert Road. I love it.
Gilbert.
So you doing some urban living, or?
Well, I just live a mile from there, so I mean, honestly, I could ride my bike to my office and be there in 10 minutes. But if I do that right now, I'll die. It's it's still too hot for that. It's funny. Like a month ago, I rode my bike to the office and I took a picture and put it on social media. I was like, rode my bike to work today, and then like 4 hours later, I'm like, oh God, now it's hot. Now I got to drive home. I got to ride at home. I was all mad. Yeah.
Can you order an Uber with a bike rack?
You know what? I wonder if they have Uber trucks, right?
Yeah. Maybe. Oh, yeah.
Or just say, give me a rope and drag me.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Well, let's. Why don't you first start off by letting the agents know how long you've been in real estate and kind of what got you into the business.
Okay, so yeah, I got into the business back in 2009 when everybody was getting out of the business, when everything was on fire. It was a very different world back then, as you guys probably know. I think you were around in the business back then as well. Yep. And so it was a very, very different world, and prices were depressed, and it was really rough. I sold a whopping 4 homes my first year, made about $9,000 on those 4 homes. So needless to say, we were hungry, we were starving, we were selling everything we owned. It was a really tough time.
Yeah.
Since then, things obviously have turned around, but yeah, that's just kind of how my whole life has been. Get in when everyone else is getting out. I don't know if that's a smart thing or not, but that's, I feel like if you can survive back then, you can survive anything.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at how you're doing now, right? So, I mean, it was the right decision back then. It might have been tough going through, but it was the right thing, right?
Yeah, and I came from a completely different world. I mean, I wasn't the kind of person who normally comes into real estate with maybe a white-collar background. I came straight out of construction. I was a commercial electrician. I was an HVAC technician for many years. I've worked many different industries. The construction world is a very negative world, and so to come from that into real estate was just a complete culture shock, completely different world. I've reinvented myself 1,000%. I make the joke all the time when I first got into the business that my broker, the first thing he said is, now let's put together your sphere of influence and you can start reaching out to these folks and you can start telling them you're in real estate. And I looked at my sphere of influence at that time and I thought, I don't think we get paid commissions to sell prison cells, or, and so I knew that wasn't going to work for me,
Gosh.
So
yeah, that would be a little rough.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and so I'm not saying all of my people were bad. I mean, my first sale was a good friend of mine, and I'm not saying everybody was, but
your
a large,
first sale.
My first was not CELLSALE. Good, nice, but
I have that.
Oh, there we go. Right on. No, my first home sale was to a good friend, but I had to jump into something. Yeah. I had to jump into something very quickly to build a new sphere of influence, and that was what I realized right away. It wasn't a matter of if I was going to stick around in the business. I was way too stubborn back then. I've been fired from so many jobs. I am so unemployable. You know what I mean? I've never been good at taking orders. So I knew I needed to be in real estate, but I was always told by the naysayers and the Chicken Littles in my life that that's not safe, that's not secure. Get into something that you're going to get a weekly check, whatever. So, in 2009, I got into the business because I had a knee injury that put me on the couch for a few months. I had a really bad surgery. My whole life fell apart in that time. My house went into foreclosure just like everybody else's was back then.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually a requirement to get your license back then, is you had to have a short sale or a foreclosure under your belt. But, I got in because it's like, what do I got left to lose? We lost everything. And so I just said, hell with that. I'm just going to follow my dreams and what I want to do and just get into it.
All right.
That's good stuff.
I've been too much of a knucklehead to get out of it since.
Well, you're doing quite well now. So, you mentioned before we started here how open houses really, I guess, really made a difference in your business.
Yeah, it was sink or swim for me. When I realized my sphere was not going to be a good source, the brokerage I started with was a small boutique brokerage out in Gold Canyon, and they had a really fantastic open house system. They had plenty of signs, they had helium balloons, they had everything a new agent would need, and they had enough listings that I can go out there and just start holding them open, and so I did. And I held them open. Geez, I would do 3 or 4 a week in some cases. I would open to close if I had to. Whatever I had to do to get in front of people. Yeah. I've done everything stupid you can do in an open house. I've made every mistake. I've learned every lesson. I've done so many of them that I managed to really. It's funny. I remember doing an open house once, and I was with a lender. It was a lender I met at an open house. He came out and met me, and I said, "Hey, why don't you sit these with me?" I was bored. It was Gold Canyon. It was summertime. Not very many people were coming in. Yeah. But we held an open house. There was a lot of traffic. A woman came in, and she was so impressed with the fact that I held an open house with a lender that she wanted me to come out and interview to list her house up on the mountain. It was a $600,000 house. Now back then, $600,000 would buy half of Pinal County. Yeah. Because it was in Apache Junction. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was a beautiful house, but that open house got me that, and so. Doing multiple open houses on her property, I started figuring out this blindingly obvious fact that, wow, the more signs I put out, it seems like the more traffic I get. And so I started developing this system slowly of, okay, instead of maybe the bare minimum, maybe we put out 10, then we put out 15, then 25, and it just kept building from there. Yeah, isn't that strange, that concept, that the more work you put into something, the more results you get out of it? And so I started kind of building my business around that, and I started having success from it. And not only just focusing on getting people to the open house, but I started really experimenting a lot with conversion. You can have 100 people show up to an open house, but if nobody buys or sells a house with you,
there's no follow-up.
Then I would have had more luck, taking a friend to lunch. I would have had more success in business taking a friend to lunch. And so, I really focused on every strategy. I put every piece of knowledge I can put in front of my eyeballs just to learn as much as I could about open houses. And I want to talk. This is super important. And I teach a class on open houses, and I really wanted to share this today. The big shift came when, as far as conversion and as far as being more successful, the big shift came when I held an open house in Higley Groves in Gilbert, beautiful neighborhood. Yeah. And this was probably 2013 at this point. And some people came by. They loved the setup. They hired me to list their house. So opening weekend, we had a big open house on her listing. I thought it went really well. Afterwards, she calls me and she says, "I want to talk to you about the open house." And I said, "Awesome. Yeah, it was great. We had like 25 groups come through. Really great." And she says, "Yeah, I want to cancel my listing agreement with you."
What?
And I thought, wow. I'm thinking to myself, like, did I leave a door open? Like, what happened? Well,
the dog got away.
Something, right? So it turned out that a friend of hers, she sent to the open house to be like a secret shopper, to critique me and see what I did and how I did my job. And she reported back to her friend that I never once made an attempt to sell the house I was sitting in. I was just trying to convert her as a lead. And I think that's a big problem with open houses, with agents. And I think that that's a reason that so many potential buyers and sellers are so turned off by us, because we all have this commission breath.
Yes.
We all have this desperation to convert someone into a client. And when I took that lesson to heart, and I really thought about it, and I thought, you know what? She's right. I didn't. She didn't hire me to turn her house into a marketing source for me. She hired me to sell the house, and I wasn't making an effort. And so from that point forward, I decided every person who comes to this house, my job is to sell them the house. Yeah. If I create a client, a buyer, a seller out of it, that happens naturally. Yeah. Now here's what's interesting. When I started doing my job versus trying to create quote unquote leads, the conversion process was just naturally skyrocketed. And the reason, I think, I've never really interviewed people around this or anything, but I think the reason that it skyrocketed was because people respected the fact that I was just doing my job and not being a salesman, right? Yeah. And so from there, I mean, that was the biggest aha moment I think I've probably ever had in my career, is that your job at an open house is not to meet buyer and seller leads. That is not why you were hired. That is not why your brokerage was hired to list this house. Your job is to sell it and make that effort and have a process for that. And then let things kind of progress naturally from there.
So instead of hey, sign up for my newsletter, or hey, put your information in this iPad. Yeah. It's let me show you around this house.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, like I collect data, but I do it in a different process. I don't like the iPad apps. I like the simplicity of the iPad app. I think it's great, but you miss this great chance to connect with people. So I have a process that I put together, like a system. It's a spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet. It's a clipboard. And there's a lender in town who always makes fun of me and says that I'm a caveman, but you know what? I'm okay with that. It's a clipboard with a sheet. So the top third of the sheet or so is contact info. So when they walk in, I hand the clipboard. I ask them if they can please sign in. I make it very clear to them that I'm not going to be adding you to some email list. I'm not going to be spamming you, reaching out to you at all ends of the night. Like I'm not a spammer. It's just not who I am. But sign in because this is somebody's home, and I need to respect the fact that if something happens, I need to have your contact info. You know what I mean? So they take the clipboard. I tell them about the house in an excited kind of a way. I tell them why they're going to love the house. And then I let them go about their way. I'm not going to follow people around a house and point out, hey, that's a closet. They know that's a closet. They don't need me to tell them that.
Yeah.
But also, when I have 50 or 60 or 100 signs out in the area, I tend to get a lot of traffic through. So following somebody around a house, number one, is ineffective, but two, it's also unsafe. So I always teach agents, find a place in the living room where people walk in maybe 20, 30 feet from the front door and just run like a command center from there. So if people are walking around the house, it's fine. They've got my clipboard, right? So they have to come back to me before they leave. That's when I'm going to talk to them. And but also, if there's an unsafe situation, I'm always by that front door. I'm not cornering a room. You know what I mean? Men can be targets at open houses also. I just saw a Facebook post where a guy got beat half to death at an open house. You know what I mean? His face was busted open and stuff. And, the fact that he was a big, strong guy saved him. Like anyone else would have been pummeled in that. But, it's all about having a system in place for conversion. But a big part of it is like, hey, if I walk into a JCPenney, I don't want someone walking me around saying, there's the pants and there's the shoes and there's the suits. I'll reach out to you when I'm ready, and that's the kind of the same approach I have at an open house.
But this tie goes with that pair of pants.
And if I want to ask that question, then I'll go find somebody. That's how people shop. Nobody wants to be sold.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be sold. So So when they bring the clipboard back, I flip the page over. They see me do that. I start asking them questions, and I have a little section on the back that. By the way, I forgot to mention, they bring the clipboard with them because there's a feedback section on there. I ask them for their feedback. Okay. I tell them it's important to my client that they want to know what you think. So if you love it, if you hate it, be honest. Be brutally honest. I've seen some funny things on that. But when they bring it back, I flip it over. I ask them valid questions. And then after the open house, I'm the guy reaching out saying, hey, it was great to meet you. I would hope to help your sister Linda move here from Minneapolis, versus an iPad canned response, nice to meet you at the open house. Right. And then there's nothing. There's I'm the guy who listened, right? So
wow.
So you actually take time to follow up with each person, and each person has their own story, right?
They do.
Their own reason why they're there.
And I take notes on that. I also identify their disc profile on the sheet.
Really?
If they're a high C, I make sure I circle that one especially because I don't get along with high Cs at all. And so I know I'm going to probably refer that to someone in my office if it converts, into something. But I do follow up. But my follow-ups also, again, it's very different. I tell people at the open house, I'm not going to send you 500 emails over the next 5 years. You're going to get one email, a call, a text. If you're not responding to me, I'm not going to just keep calling but I tell people that up front, and I show them value. So my conversion rate seems to be higher than what I've closed 6 deals this year from 24 open houses. I closed a deal, and it's not saying leads in the pipeline, stuff like that, but actually I have closed so far this year 1 out of every 4 open houses that I've done.
That's awesome.
And that includes like 7 a.m. open houses and stuff like that, where you'd think the conversion rate would be nothing.
Wow. Really? I didn't think that open houses, that you can actually put a process and a system to it other than, okay, don't forget the cookies, put up 6 signs, 50 signs. Do you do that yourself, or do you have someone?
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Oh, I was going to say.
Who puts up signs themselves? What am I, a savage? Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Well, I guess that leads us to
That's
the fact
a great segue.
Yeah, that leads us right into, you've actually developed your own company or started your own company around this, right?
Well, what's funny is we actually created the industry. Before we started Open House Helpers, there was nothing like it. And the company was born out of pure frustration because, I was the guy putting up 40, 50 signs, and I was doing it in the middle of the night.
Wow.
And then holding the open house open the next morning because it's like you'd be sweating profusely at an open house, and then, that's not a very good first impression when someone walks in and you
wet
just stink and you got the wet pits. Yeah, exactly. Or it's just dripping down your face. So no, I remember one night I was setting up an open house and I smashed my finger with a hammer.
Ouch.
Because I use the coroplast signs with the H-frame stakes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And because when you're putting out 50, you have to. It just makes more sense. But I smashed my finger and I just threw my hammer into a parking lot at a Circle K and just started screaming at God, like, I've had enough of this crap. And then the idea just popped into my head, like, there needs to be a company that does this. And I was like, why doesn't that exist? You know, we have at that point we had companies were starting to emerge, like, your listing companies and things like that. But I was like, no one's doing open house signs, so we started it, and we just jumped in, with both feet, and it's been, so that was 2014. We started that through January 2014, so we're 4.5 years in.
Yeah.
There's been a few other companies popping up doing the same thing, which is fine. That's just a form of flattery. We're focused on making our business models one that can be expanded into other markets. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's what we've been focused on the last while. So we're getting ready to open up in Tucson and Austin, Texas, hopefully this year. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And that's openhousehelpers.com?
Yeah, openhousehelpers.com is the site.
And I was checking out the site. Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's quite a few different options for the services.
Yeah, we do sign placement, which is our big thing, but we also help people. There's plenty of agents out there who struggle with, like, putting out a Facebook post. Oh. And so, we I wouldn't call myself an expert on Facebook posts, but we have a pretty good system where we'll get usually in front of 2,500 to 4,500 people on a post. With a small boost. We just do geographic targeted. We have flyers. We do print and delivery of, we do 500 to 1,000 flyers in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Beforehand, and then we have sign spinning that we do once in a while. That's not very on. Yeah, sign spinning is a tough business. It's hard to keep people around for that. So I don't know if it's really effective either. But it's funny. I've sat there at some points. I've had lists of like 50 different things we want to offer, and it's like, at the end of the day, the bread and butter is the signs and the social media, in my opinion, getting people out. There's a lot of things we can bust into, but I want to perfect those and be able to make that expandable into other markets, and then we can add other little flares down the road.
Yeah, sure. Well, they have the robotic mannequin sign holders now, right?
Oh man,
go like this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There you go. You should get some of those.
Funny story.
Charge a little premium for that, right?
Funny story. And if anyone's listening who knows me, they know that I've had some battles with the city of Chandler. Chandler came down hard on us with their enforcement.
I was going to ask you about the number of signs. Is that what you're going?
Well, yeah, Chandler had a rule of four signs, and they were enforcing it. 4. And so, I mean, come on, 4 doesn't even get you to the house sometimes. Now, they were letting it bend if it was a couple extra and it was necessary, but they were really hard on us. And so we started kind of going back and forth, and then at one point there was going to be a lawsuit, and it didn't happen. But when you talk about the dancing mannequins, I had an idea, and I was going to do this, and I decided not to, which is good. I've always got to run things past my wife. She's the voice of reason. I was going to hire 50 people to wear yellow open house T-shirts and walk up and down the street and just keep walking back and forth, so they weren't loitering technically.
Wow.
and just have human signs.
Interesting.
I think it'd be funny, and if I could, especially if I could find like, circus people or something like that, or someone who's going to get, maybe someone on stilts or something like that, or whatever. I don't know. There's always a lot of opposition to what we do.
Sure.
We've had fights with certain cities. The city of Avondale tried to fine us $12,000 over signs one time. They gave us the chance to take them down, but that's their rule. $250 per sign over 4 is their fine, and they're enforced by the police. The police actually pulled my installer over and threatened us with this fine. He said, "You got 20 minutes to get these down," and boy, they were down fast. But there's some cities that just don't mess around. So, and others, are lenient.
Yeah. Well, you could really get your name out there if you call somebody from the local news and have them come out and do a news story about your 50 people walking around.
That's actually what the plan was. I was gonna call the news and say, "Hey, I'm picking a fight with Chandler. Show up at this intersection if you want to see what's going on," just to be fun, right? I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. At the end of the day, like, I've got a philosophy on mega open house sign placement. I hate driving around and seeing political signs right now. I'm sure you guys hate it too.
Yeah.
Because they stay there day in and day out for months and months, or you see those pathetic signs: real estate investor seeking apprentice, $100,000 a year. Like, it's just crap, right? That's because it's there all day. Our signs are up and down in 6 hours tops, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: 50 signs leading to an open house with an agent inside. A busy open house is a safe open house. Okay, you don't have an agent out there in heels running around crossing streets getting run over by cars. You don't have an agent in a very desolate open house with no one showing up, and somebody shows up and it's a bad situation. Like, our open houses tend to bring a lot of traffic, and so it's a safe open house. It's a more profitable open house. You know, we've had many times where agents have reported to us, "Oh man, we had 120 groups come through and 9 offers," or things like that. Like, we've had agents sell the home plenty of times at our events. You know what I mean? They're pretty crazy. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow,
I like it. Yeah, look into that, Jeff.
On the wild side. That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. So let's. So if anybody wants to see that, again, you can go to openhousehelpers.com.
Yep, or you can just find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group or a Facebook page. Also, I've got a Facebook group, because I was getting a lot of agents reaching out to me for questions, which I love answering questions, but it takes time, and I want to be effective. So I started a Facebook group called Mega Open House Mastermind. We've got about 1,000 agents from all over the country in there. A lot of great agents sharing good stuff. So feel free to join that group as well.
Mega Open House
Mastermind. Yep, exactly. So we got that as a resource out there. There's a few of us agents who admin it, and it's been pretty good.
Okay, cool. All right, I guess we'll get joining that. I can't remember if I'm on that already. I don't know. I'll have to check. How about we'll switch gears real quick, because I know that you are also you're starting your own podcast, or if you've got your own podcast started now. Yep. And you're using it as because I know other agents around the country that are using podcasts now as kind of one of their ways to reach out to their farm or to share, I guess, their niche, right? So tell us how, like, what made you make that decision? And
podcasting is the future, in my opinion. I mean, I love it. I think a lot of people it's just a growing industry. I wanted a way to. Okay, so in Gilbert, as you know, there are several of us who have these pages about Gilbert. You know, so my page is My Gilbert. There's also Go Gilbert, and there's Gilbert Now, and there's the Gilbert Insider, and there's all these other groups, and I'm fine with it. Like, hey, competition makes us all better, and so we're always looking to go. We use this as a platform to get out and meet people and to give, because it's a like, you can do business one of two ways. You can be a taker, or you can be a giver. And for me, I like to be a giver, and I like to give value to people, and I don't really have any expectations in return. So I'm not just interviewing people who I know are going to send me leads and stuff like that. I'm interviewing people who I think are interesting people, have something interesting to say. But the podcast was just kind of the next step. Like, several times I've gone out to new business openings and said, hey, I want to help you promote your business on my Facebook page, and we'll we'll do a bunch of stuff, and it's great. But the podcast, whenever people listen to someone on a podcast, it's different. So here's an example. One of the guys I interviewed recently was Byron Brown. Okay, you guys have probably heard of the anti-lawyer. He's the guy on the billboards with a suit with no sleeves, and he's got the tattoos on his hands and his arms.
I was telling you about him, Joey.
Yeah, his office is right down the street from mine. He's a very interesting guy. I've always wanted to meet him. Had him come on the show. Okay, it was a great interview.
Okay.
A week later, after I released that, I get a call from an agent friend of mine who says, hey, I just listened to your podcast, and I got to tell you, Byron Brown seems like such a real guy to me now. If I ever got in an accident or something, I can't think of even calling anyone else. What I did is I humanized him.
Sure.
Right? We all have our online persona, but my goal with the podcast is exactly that. I want people to feel like they know you when they talk to you. So whether it be Maisha, who owns Emergency IV, when someone meets with her, they're going to be like, I listened to your podcast, and I feel like I just connected with you, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing, a couple a week. And so I'm really excited about this. It's gone really well. I jumped into this like I do everything else, not having any idea what I'm doing. I'm the kind of guy who jumps out of an airplane and builds a parachute halfway down and just hopes it works.
I remember reading your email. Yeah, you said, well, I started this podcast and it's awesome, and I have no clue what I'm doing.
No clue. But YouTube, honestly, you can learn anything on. I feel like YouTube has replaced college for me. You can learn anything on
University.
YouTube. That's right.
That is true. That's awesome, man. So you post that out. Does that go out to Facebook? Are you going out to iTunes? Are you going?
Yeah, I've got it on iTunes. I've got it on iTunes, and the podcast is called My Gilbert the Podcast. So you can find it on iTunes, or you can just follow the Facebook page of My Gilbert, and then every time we release an episode, we'll post it on there. There's also a link to the platform that I use is called Spreaker. And so it allows me to post it on there, and then I can put it out to multiple different things, like iTunes. You have to have an RSS feed and different things like that. And so I was thinking about trying to put it on SoundCloud, but I don't see a benefit if we're on Spreaker already. So Spreaker and iTunes is what we're doing now. And love to. I have no idea how many people have subscribed, but I'm getting a lot of emails and phone calls from people who have listened and who really like it.
So how do you get what you do in the podcast, and how often?
So as far as advertising, so I do
for yourself.
For my intro, I do have a spot for Modern Day Listing, which is my listing program. So I just talk about what the podcast is, who I am, and thanks for listening. This is how you can subscribe. By the way, if you're looking to sell your home and you wanted to know the absolute best possible way to do so, check out modernDayListing.com. And that's the only promotion I do. It's in the intro built in. So every time people are hearing that, I've thought maybe at some point if someone in town wants to reach out and do some advertising on the podcast, I might be open to it. But that's really, I'm not looking to monetize it or anything like that. I'm just looking to learn it and to build connections and friendships with it.
Right. You do, so people do know that you are in real estate. Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, you put that out there.
Yep.
So
yep. And it might come up in conversation here and there. Like when I was talking with Byron, for example, he was talking about the number of lawyers who get their who go. Imagine going through law school and spending $100,000 and then not passing the test and not being able to get in. Like that happens more than you think. Or they get in and there's so much competition that they last a year and they're like I don't know about you. Whenever I think of lawyers, I think every one of them is successful. But it's not the case at all.
Yeah,
it's just as cutthroat, if not more, than real estate. So during that interview, we talked about that a few times, the comparison between the two. But it was like natural conversation. I wasn't trying to force it in or anything.
That's good. Awesome.
A lot of great info in this episode.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Thanks
just
so
looking
much,
to bring
man.
Value, man. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. The open house system that you use, that's amazing.
That's
pretty cool.
Thank you very much.
Are you ready to transition? Or you want to get in the ring?
Oh, geez, you got me nervous now.
No. Yeah. All right. We'll get in the ring. What's the best advice that anyone's ever given you?
Oh, I was hoping you'd ask me that question. This is the best advice I've ever been given in my life. Pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered. Bob Laird if he's still in the business, I think he is. He's been in the business probably 60 years. That was the first piece of advice anyone ever gave me in the business, and that was that. And I've seen time after time where people get greedy and get burned, or they, whether that be clients, whether that be realtors, whether that be anybody. There's so many times where I just see that is the most true statement I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
All right.
I do like that. I mean, it's like giving without expectations. I mean, you kind of mentioned that. That used to be my tagline: giving without expectations.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Joey. Yes. All right. How about your favorite?
I like you.
Yeah, he's cool, huh? How about your favorite mobile app?
Oh man, I'm using this one right now that I'm in love with. So I believe that it's all about good habits create a good business, right?
Okay.
So there's this app called Way of Life. Way of Life. Here, I'm just going to show it to you. So I have all these different things that I should be doing every day, and at the end of the day, I literally track whether I did that or not. And at the top, it's really simple. It just shows the number of green is the times I've done it. Red is it shows me if I'm owning up to the things I'm supposed to be doing, right? So everything from health things. Am I meditating? Am I reading? Am I working out? Am I taking these certain supplements that I take every day? I keep track of all those things every day, and when I've got more green than red, things are kicking, things are going well. Right? It's a reminder for me to do your affirmations. Do those things you're supposed to do every day that make you a better person.
Wow. It's called
Way of Living.
Way of Life?
Way of Life.
Oh,
I love it.
And it's a free app?
It's a free app, yep.
Nice.
I love it.
I noticed you're on iPhone. I don't know. You'll have to check.
Yeah.
Is it on Android too,
I have no idea.
Nope. Okay.
I don't know anything about it. I could start talking crap about Android here, but I'm not going
Well, thank
Be
you.
careful, Joey.
I'm an Apple snob. I'm just messing. I always have to bring that up. I'm just messing around.
Now he doesn't now he doesn't like you as much.
Yeah.
So, no.
I used to like you a lot.
Sorry.
How about a book recommendation?
Okay. My favorite book, real estate. Okay, so there's two, I've got two recommendations for books. My favorite non-real estate book of all time is The 4-Hour Workweek.
Okay.
And the audiobook especially. The audiobook is just compelling. They hired somebody who had the best voice, I swear. It's just, you can't stop listening to the guy. But it's such a great book, and it teaches you to open your eyes to the grind. And the grind is important, but don't make that the goal.
It's
and
just being smart.
Don't put off your life until the end when you're too old to enjoy it. You know what I mean? My favorite real estate related book that I've read so far would be The One Thing. It's just hyper focused, and that's anyone who knows me knows that my biggest struggle, just like everybody else, has always been that I have too many things going on at once. That's it. And so I'm always trying to eliminate. I feel like the secret to success is more elimination than it is addition, right? So yeah, that's my favorite.
All right, awesome. How about a productivity tool or software that you use on a regular basis?
Productivity tool
or software, yeah. Getting out.
Well, honestly, I'm pretty old. I mean, I love my CRM that I work with, maybe something like that. So I'm a FirePoint user. FirePoint has a really great search functionality for my clients, and it gives me the ability to eliminate UCB and CCBS listings. So it gives me something to talk about at open houses. I always ask people, do you want to know how Zillow made $1 billion last year? And they always, well, yeah, by giving fake information or bad information intentionally to create a distrust between buyers and their agents, and then you end up going to these premier agents, and that's how they get their leads. It's the UCB and the CCBS listings. And I like that the CCBS ends in BS, but it shows up as active. But on my site, on FirePoint, one of the reasons I like the site so much, and you can check out moderndayrealestate.com if you want to see what my website looks like. But in the search functionality, I have the ability to not show those listings. So I can put a video out or I can put a post out saying my content, my information is real. It's not crap. It's not what you're finding on Realtor.com and Redfin and all these sites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's real to me. That's
Find
good.
out more about that.
Cool.
CCBS and...
That just means it's under contract, accepting backups.
I know what
okay.
they are, but why don't you use them? Anyway, that's a different...
Taking them off there. Taking them out of the searches. Yeah, absolutely. And one final question.
Oh, I got to draw it out of here?
Yeah.
This is beautiful. What is that, velvet?
All right, what'd you get there?
Who is your favorite actor or actress?
Oh, there we go.
That is a really, really hard question for me to answer because I watch no television.
Okay.
I watch NBA games and stuff like that. So for me, I'm like, well, my favorite actor is LeBron James.
There you go. We'll talk about that. So what do you think about LeBron James being in L.A.?
Who was your favorite singer or band in high school? Okay.
Oh, there we go.
All right. In high school, I was a raging dirthead with long, flowing, beautiful hair, believe it or not, being bald now. Wow. That's why I've got this big beard, is to overcompensate for the fact that I stopped growing hair on my head. But no, I was a big, like, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, kind of like, I was like this grunge guy in high school.
Huh?
Yeah, very grungy, ripped up jeans and a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. I was that guy.
All right.
Yeah. Fun questions.
Awesome, man. Oh, so did you want to ask him about LeBron?
So are you
going to LA?
LeBron James fan?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about LA?
Well, I mean, it's hard for me because here's the thing. Like, I've never been a Cleveland fan. I've always been a LeBron fan, you know, but I like Kevin Love. Him going to LA, I get why he did it. He says it was a basketball decision. He's setting up his future. His son is a basketball player. He's trying to get him into the best basketball systems in the world. He owns a production company. He's getting that lined up for when he retires. If he ever retires, I mean, the guy's a beast.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone like get better as they get older, except for Jennifer Aniston, but that's different.
I didn't know she played hoops.
We're not talking about that, but no, it seems like he gets better every year. But no, he made a good decision for his life. At least he didn't go to the Spurs. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I hate the Spurs. So if he went to the Spurs, I would have been pretty angry. I'll enjoy watching him play for the Lakers. I'm really excited about the Suns this year. That new kid they got, number 1 draft pick. They made a few. I mean, I feel like I can come out of the closet and be a Suns fan again.
Yes.
Last 5 years, it's been very hard to be a Suns fan.
Really tough to be a Suns fan.
Yeah, so I feel like, maybe I can just, let the shame go and that kind of stuff.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being in here.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great time.
Show.
Yeah,
join
great
us
time.
at Security Title Studios with our sponsor from Fidelity National Home Warranty.
Yes.
Also, if agents want to reach out to you directly, how best for them to do that?
I'm really big in Facebook, so find me on there is fine. You can send me an email, dustin@holindrake.com, HOLINDRAKE. Is just fine as well. Or like I said, join the Mega Open House Mastermind, and there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for being in.
Hey, my pleasure. Yes. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, agents. Until next time, this is Jeff Underwood.
And Joey Sampaga.
Signing off. See you later.
See ya. Thank you. Good stuff.